Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this amazing presentation about art and identity. Tonight, we are joined by the fantastic artist, Jega Delisca. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Ooh. Hi, my name is Jega Delisca. As you said, my pronouns are he, him. I'm an oil painter and I study here at Concordia in Montreal. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. I am Ron. I use he and they pronouns et lui en français, and I work for the Expand Project. So just real quick, what the Expand Project is all about before we get started. The Expand Project, or Le Projet Inspirant, aims to foster conversations about the use of commercial tobacco in queer and trans communities. So be it smoking, vaping, we're here to, on the one hand, help people who are trying to decrease or quit altogether with commercial tobacco. So we have support available for that, but we're also here to help increase the overall health and well-being of our Korean trans siblings. So that's what we're aiming for. And tonight's conversation about art and identity, it's to help people find a new way to channel their energy and help them get through their day and identify things within themselves that they can then channel on a canvas and hopefully create something beautiful with it. Perhaps finding a new hobby as well. So with this amazing presentation on the way, let's pass it back to Yega.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm happy to get started. I'm going to do another brief introduction on myself. So as I've mentioned, I study at Concordia currently, studio arts, and I've been there for the last 3 years. Before some other notable things, I've done an international show in London, UK. Um, I've recently done the art fair called Arch here in Montreal for emerging artists, and I've also worked as a curator. I've done some art programming. I'm working with queer groups in Scarborough and in Toronto. Um, and yeah, so that's a little bit of my professional background. And I'm currently, as a painter, I usually focus on masculine subjects, whatever that may mean. I'm very interested in investigating what it like intimacy around men, like affections, rituals of affections between men. And that also incorporates how I view myself, how I view my queerness, and how all these conversations are unfolding. And yeah, so that's a little brief overview of what I'm going to of the things I've done recently. And yeah, I think I'm just going to really focus in on my artist practice and the questions I'm dealing with day to day, um, why I paint the way I paint, and yeah, I think that's a good way to sort of segue into this. I think it's best to start off with a little bit about my early life. I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. I had five older brothers. And if you're not familiar with Florida or West Palm Beach in that particular area, it was a super hyper masculine space and environment that I was surrounded by. And as I'm also the youngest of five older brothers, so um, needless to say, it was very hyper masculine. We were Haitian immigrants in a very let's say difficult place to live. It was just a lot of friction that sort of made me and my brothers have to adopt these sort of facades of hyper masculinity. It was a really bizarre experience, actually, like seeing some of the people I've known the best, my brothers, as they slowly become a lot more rigid or a lot more, for lack of a better word, scary and intimidating, as we sort of had to navigate that weird, complex space that we found ourselves in. And so, gang violence, violence in general, was visible. It was very much a thing that was constantly in the conversation as a young person. At the time, I didn't realize I was queer, so I really did not mesh well with my older brothers. I could not seem to be as hypermasculine as they would have wanted, and uh, well, I don't want to actually place the blame on my siblings there. I think just that situation really encourages you to be a little bit more tough, quote unquote. And yeah, so I found my escape by moving to Canada, Scarborough, Ontario, also known as Toronto. Um, And yeah, it was like a fresh start. I didn't have to fight anyone. And I was just so determined as a young gay child to be like, hey, I'm going to recreate my life here. And it really brought me on this journey of self-discovery that did not seem realistic back in West Palm Beach. I also included a little photo of MSN Paint, Microsoft Paint, not MSN, Microsoft Paint. I was on that as a child for like hours. I would I would be creating these like really expansive stories. I'd spend like 7 hours a day. My screen time was horrible. But I was really engaged with working with just processing all the things I was continuing with and making a really immersive world to escape from everything. Um, yeah, which brings us perfectly into this next slide. Um, Particularly, I really want to talk about how I've used art as an escape. Um, but it was also a really good way to form a sense of identity. When I moved here to Scarborough and I had the opportunity to recreate my identity, I stuck to the things that I was praised for. And for me, that was my visual art skills. I was always drawing as a child on walls or whatever. I that was the one thing I was really celebrated with. And I have a big family unit, so anything that sticks out, you really want to make sure that's like, hey, this is how I'm witnessed for my family. This is how I can see myself as valuable and find a way to be witnessed in a lovingly way. So yeah, I started painting every single day. And well, before I went to high school, that looked like just drawing, like any, I was really into manga and anime as a kid. So just drawing my favorite characters. Um, I also got really into like classical French painting for some reason. I think I found a book somewhere. So I was practicing with my watercolors and I would be on YouTube studying anatomy and just passing my day, most of my summers just focusing on art, essentially. And something that's so cool about visual art in particular is that it has this capacity to bring unprocessed motions to the surface, things that you might be hiding from your peers or your family. For me, a lot of that was shame around my queerness, and I did not fully understand at the time, but things were like I was I was painting like, yeah, I don't know, naked men doing I was deeply at the time, wow, like it was so clearly I'm like a queer child, but for some reason I'm like, well, I'm painting naked men to paint naked men, like I'm having fun here. Um, but there's something about art where it allows us to suspend our belief for a second, to be like, hey, we're just creating something and it's coming to the surface, and oh, I'm just doing it to feel good. And when we allow ourselves to like feel, when we are in a space where it's safe enough to ask deeper questions, we might find some really good nuggets of our identity. And when we start asking why am I drawing naked men, or why am I focused on this particular subject matter, we can start figuring out all the little pain points, all little balls of traumas that we might have developed as a child or in our younger years, or even in our high school years, and whenever that happens. And we're able to like process it just a little bit, one nugget at a time. And for me, yeah, I've done that a lot through art. Um, Something I didn't mention earlier, as a kid, I developed a really like a deep fear of men. Like it's like androphobia. And you can imagine, like I had five older brothers. It was I was fighting all the time. I was in a hypermasculine environment, so I developed a really intense fear of men to the point where, um, I remember when I was on the TTC, like our public transit, a bus, and if there was a man in front of me that was if there was a man standing in front of me and I was I was waiting for a bus, like I was waiting for my stop to come, I would literally just I'd literally just wait there, even if it's my stop and it's my turn to get off. Like I had such intense anxiety that I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait till this guy leaves. Um, and so yeah, I would miss my bus stop a lot. That's how intense it was. I didn't understand why. I started to come to an understanding of like, okay, I've experienced some early childhood um, violence. So yeah, my whole painting practices around men, and I think it's really profound because I've grew up with such an intense fear of them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how some of those traumas kind of appear throughout my painting practice. So here's a good selection of three paintings that I've done. The middle one is actually the oldest one in this collection. I was really focused on gazes. Like, if we see this figure on the far left, I was really obsessed with this idea that I can find that men are most honest or most safe to me when they are transferring between emotions. So when you catch them off, like when you catch them between two different emotions where the camera isn't rolling for so to speak, like it's just a weird transition moment where you're moving from one thought to the other, or you're putting down one performance to the other, and there's just this weird liminal space where someone is very honest. And I was like, whoa, I really want to be situated in that space. I I've come to understand that there there's a lot of power in gazes and who's watching you. Um, like in the same way a dog shows you its belly to show its vulnerability and be like, hey, I'm showing you that, I'm showing you my vulnerability in the sense of establishing a strong connection. I find that the same way in between gazes. And yeah, I don't know. I really love those sort of moments. It's these really small moments that I wasn't really allowed to sit on because again, growing up in Florida, if you look at a man in the eye too long, you're asking for a fight. Like it was really I'm just used to looking down and not meeting people in their eyes. So it was just a cool way to sit with someone, to sit with a friend or someone I'm trying to get to know. Someone I might idealize and just sit with them for so long, study their face. That was really healing for me. It really provided so much time and meditation in between me and that person that kind of was just far enough from my seeds of trauma that I can actually like sit with them. I don't know. I'm just really into that. And then we're going to move on to that middle figure there. You'll see this in my later work now, but I love this sense of it's like a nice gestural brushstroke. I just feel like this is just we're just living, we're just here, and I'm rendering someone in such a quick, rapid moment that you're almost in an enthralling moment with them. Like you're just like, it's like when you're laughing so hard with your friends and you're just dancing with them, so they're a little blurry in that sense. I don't know. I'm really obsessed with that vibe. You'll see that a little later. And third, on the far right, you'll have it's a self-portrait of me. I also believe portraiture is a great way to see yourself. I'm not someone who really likes looking in a mirror. um, But there's something about setting your own face and being like, well, yeah, you're a man, whatever that means. Um, that was giving me some solace. It was giving me some sort of like, hey, I can look at myself and recreate myself and be like, oh, you're actually a nice person. Um, I don't know. There's an intimacy there. So some of all of these portraits are people at one point I idealized or just like thought the world of them, and I still do. Like a lot, these people are still my friends, and my family members. Again, you'll see a lot of them are they have askance gazes, or they're not looking directly too much at something. It's just you're there, you're in between the moment, you're feeling something, and you've probably noticed that I have a palette, an orange and green palette that I'm obsessed with. Um, I think those are my Florida colors, like FAMU, which is a popular HBCU in Florida. A lot of my siblings and family and cousins have attended there. I love those colors. I think those colors just like they remind me of home. They feel good. They're like energetic, but not too domineering, at least in my from my vantage point. But yeah, I love like yeah, I love this moment here. It's just nice fun. We're looking at people where I'm and through this painting practice, I'm getting closer with my friends. It's not just um making a monument of someone, but it's adding a new layer of connection. All right. Um as I've mentioned a bit before, the fear of perception, something that I carried with me for a while and still do. Um and I can imagine, as a young gay man, there is this feeling of a deep, profound shame that you sort of have to contend with as you're growing up. And I always felt like I was looking from the outside. I felt like I was just not a part of this world. Um, Here, I have a photograph of two people I grew up with. Actually, on the left is Jethro. It's actually one of my first crushes as a kid, and I realized that later on as I've done some more paintings of him, you'll see. Um, I always felt like my gazes were like leering, like they were these unwanted intrusions on people who are living a nice, normal life. Who are like, "Hey, oh, get that gay stare away from me." I don't know. I had this like intense fear of like, oh my gosh, me being here is ruining the vibe. And externally, I also had this fear of like, whoa, I kind of hate being perceived. I just felt like, oh, okay, I am not part of this main story, and I'm also a hindrance to it. This has changed a lot as I've like meditated and sat with this painting. Because it's obviously not leering. I think um, I've moved more towards a word of witnessing, as in there's this beautiful quote by I understood where she talks about how as children we aren't really afraid of sharing our works with people. Like we really want to no matter how new we are at drawing or whatever hobby, we want to share stuff to our parents, to our friends. Like, hey, here's this cool thing I've made. And somewhere along the way into adulthood, we kind of get a lot of fear around that, where we just don't feel comfortable sharing as much. And she points out that it's actually that we do want to be seen. We just want to be lovingly seen. We want to be lovingly witnessed. And that sort of really helped me reframe the way that I was thinking about my role in my relationships, in my as an artist, and my subject matter. Because now I'm like, wait a minute. This is a painting of Jethro again, the person who was in the previous image here. And we are all in Florida right now for my brother's graduation from FAMU. Um, and I don't know. There was something so sweet about the whole affair. When I really sit with it, I'm deeply appreciating everything about his face. I'm witnessing him. I am becoming another storyteller of his life. Like in this current moment, whether you see this video a little later, um, he's going to live through these paintings and through the words as I speak them right now. Like, there is so much power in that. That's a act of witnessing. That's really profound. Like you can see this little gap between his beard, like the slash in his eyebrow, even the way that I focused in on his eyes. Like paintings aren't. This is my personal opinion. I don't think paintings need to be perfect. I don't really. I'm not trying to take a photograph. I really am trying to get a sense of the energy or the feelings and sentiments that I was imbued with of during the moment when I was with them. I don't know, something about it just feels really sweet and tender, and it's totally different from layering, where I'm trying to layering. I feel like you're casting a stare, or you're casting gaze on someone when you don't want to be there. This face isn't saying that. It's saying, "Hey, you're in our circle. I'm here with your at your brother's graduation. I'm part of the story. I'm witnessing something there." And yeah, that was just weird. Again, this is what happens when you have a craft like painting or anything, you engage in creativity. Like you can start seeing these things where like, oh, these deep-seated beliefs I had about the world and how I saw the world is perhaps they're wrong. Maybe I'm not unwanted, or I'm just leering, or I'm just a third party person. But this is also my life. Maybe I'm witnessing something. Maybe I'm sharing something with these people. Here are some other paintings I did of that same moment. Um, or actually a little later into that particular day. On the left, we have Dawson, a silly character. It's a very silly character. And this is again to bring up finding people in between moments of emotions where he's not really thinking so intensely about performing. Like Dawson's a great person, um, but he's really good at performing as well. We all are. And he'll make you laugh, and he'll put on this sort of facade of like, okay, here's the person who makes you laugh. And so when you find these people in between the moment where like, okay, he's transitioning to another thought or another performance, you just see Dawson be the calmest person in the room. There's something really beautiful about that. I don't know, it's kind of like being in the eye of a storm, or yeah, there's just something gorgeous about that. Anyway, I can geek out about this all day. In fact, let me just make sure I'm good on time. Um, yes. So, portraiture as an act of witnessing. Okay, another takeaway that I have from painting and working on this art practice, now that I've moved away from thinking of me as an outsider, and moving more towards a person who's in the room when it happens, and obviously I am because I'm taking these photos, I'm painting these people. I'm now starting to consider portraits as invitations. Like when I look at this is a photo of my friend. Um, oh my God, my friend Dre. I almost forgot his name for a second. This is a photo of my friend Dre, and I had him sit for me so I can make some paintings of them and just really study them. And I really asked him what he would be comfortable doing. This was a two-way street here, two-way street of intimacy. That it's Of course, it takes a lot of vulnerability to be witness, but I would argue it takes some vulnerability to witness as well. Like it's a two-way street there. So we have this lovely pose. This is behind my old studio in Montreal in Van Horn. Um, and yeah, I just loved. I loved the gaze. Like he said, he's looking directly at you. He's inviting you into his world, and he has this like slow, pensive um, look to it. I don't know. I think there's just so much power to that. Especially, I haven't mentioned. Obviously, I'm a black person. Um, a lot of a lot of the images I saw of blackness and masculinity was just so such a character of violence and danger. It even affected the way that I saw the world. So again, in this journey where I'm inviting people into my studio or into my spaces and asking them to collaborate on an image to cultivate an art piece, there is something really deeply profound about like, oh wow, it's changing some of these deep-seated beliefs I might have. I might carry this, maybe this internalized racism or um, anything that I might be dealing with, and like, whoa, now we're creating a new narrative. These were the paintings I did of Kindre based off that um, last photo. I believe I titled I'll be here waiting for you for what we already knew. It's a really long title. I do that a lot. Um, because yeah, I don't know. It was about capturing the moment. It was really about like, whoa, you have this calm poise to you that's just saying, hey, let's talk. You're in the room. And it's not an interrogation. It's not this like violent form of induced intimacy. It's very much we're having tea with each other. We're just this is a conversational piece here. And this little overexposed photo is yeah, you just catch a little bit more of those moments. Again, those liminal moments where people are in between emotions. He's not looking directly at the viewer. Love that. Um, Another part of like portraits as invitations is that when we acknowledge that we're in the room too, we can start asking we can start asking our subject to do like asking things of them. We can essentially I'm like, okay, this is my friend here, Fisher. What do you want to do? Like what does this look like? I want to paint a portrait. I know I want to do that. How do we get there? Mm, when I was painting Fisher, and we spent about like 4 hours that day, I was doing a lot of quick sketches of Fisher. And for some reason, there's something about the setting of me behind my easel and him sitting there posing for an image that allows us to have deeply intimate conversations. Like this guy was such a mystery to me before this moment. He told me everything about his life, his upbringing, and it was like this deeply emotional. Like, well, I don't know. We were friends before then, but we were really friends after. There's something that happens when we, as collaborators, focus on witnessing each other. There's just something deeply emotional. Yeah, I really love this series, and this is a drawing done in pastel, and actually, yeah, I think I just did it in soft pastels. I just wanted to capture again. You've already heard it before, a liminal moment. I love it. I love it so much. I just think like, wow, he's like showing me his belly. Like I I need to find a better metaphor, but when dogs show you belly, I just think it's so amazing. He's being wrong with me, and it's we still have a beautiful friendship to this day. Okay. Um, I don't know if I should. Well, yeah, there's no need for a 15-minute break, actually. So I'm just going to get into this next part of it. Wait, so we've talked about painting as a form of escapism, painting as an invitation to have more deep and meaningful conversations with the people you love. thirdly, I think I want in this current phase of my life, I'm a student at Concordia. I'm being challenged to have an academic lens on my paintings now. Now it's more about why I make the things I do, what's the context I'm speaking from. And I've really enjoyed this last little phase of my life because it's allowed me the space and time to reintroduce myself to my culture, um, to be critical of some of the perceptions that I might have adopted growing up on this land and under these systems, um, and asks deep, meaningful questions. So rituals of affection around between Black men go have a very fascinating history, particularly the dap. It's a form of handshake. I'm sure you're aware of it, or you've probably seen it, where it's basically a complex handshake between Black men, and it's now it doesn't really matter who, right? So it's just it's a cultural phenomenon. But studying the origins of this, and it was between Black soldiers during the Vietnam War. They created this act of like, hey, I'm going to do a quick check-in on you. For a little bit of context, the Vietnam War, horrible war. No one wanted to be part of it. Um, at the time, Black soldiers who were dispatched there were experiencing intense racism from their white counterparts. They were also, the horrors of the deeds that they were completing on behalf of that American imperialism. It was not a good setting to be in. But and this was also around the time where the Black Power movement was had a flexion point. So the Black Power fist was banned in the army. The DAP became a quick way to affirm love for each other between Black soldiers. Um, and each thing would like, hey, this would be unit number, like this would be Falcon Squad. Like it had a really complex language. And it was meant to be done so quickly, so briefly, just be like, hey, I see you, I'm witnessing you, we're in this together, sort of thing. It has it's a deep history of love. And I don't know, I did not have that perception of it before. I just thought like, well, I'm not updated on my DAP, which means I'm not connected to the culture right now. And I don't know, I felt a lot of shame for getting it wrong at times. Um, but I started using that language into and incorporating into my current paintings. So what we have right over here, this triptych, where I took some photos from the Smithsonian. It's a museum in the United States that focuses on Black history, and they have a great collection of archive of the people who created the DAP, the Black GI Joes. Um, and you can see the sort of like hints that I'm doing of the men in fatigues creating it. And underneath, there's a popular meme. So underneath this first layer of paint here, we have these imprints of a popular meme called "Kiss Your Homies," where it's two Black men kissing. Um, and something I'm trying to do is one, I think outside of the intimate Black context, there's something our larger culture, our meme culture might um, there's some assumptions our larger culture has around Black male intimacy. Like when we see the meme and it's like two guys kissing meme, search it up. It's really just two Black gay men kissing. There's not, when you think about it, it's not actually all that funny. But it becomes funny in the context that if we believe all Black men to be like these hyper masculine, scary figures, the fact that two Black men are kissing is just so wild, and that's where the humor starts. So there's this one narrative around Black male intimacy that's being held in, let's say, um, the more general meme world, and then there's a different conversation about Black male intimacy from curators of that, of that, from Black male J. Joes, from the people themselves, in creating a culture and language around love. And I want to ask those questions. So I have these juxtaposing ideas clashing with each other. Like those are the kind of questions I get to ask with painting. That I just find so fascinating. I don't know. And as you can tell, it's gone a lot more abstract or a lot more figurative, but it's really more about pushing an idea along than depicting something. Uh, another, yeah, there's just so many influences here. Trent Kelly does a lot of great work on collecting photos of uh, um, finished photos of Black queer couples. There's something so powerful about like this historian giving you this huge archive of Black queer friends or lovers um, existing. Like it is changing the narrative. It's challenging the narrative that we have around Black men, and it gives me some hope as Black queer man myself. Like, hey, I can blackness, maleness, queerness. These are all things that can be accomplished by one person, that can be lived in by one person, and I have a visual representation that tells me so. Like that's what's the real power behind these. So I don't know. I'm obsessed with portraiture. And I also did a painting based off this idea. Again, if you look really closely, you'll see the two black men kissing meme. Same conversation I'm having here. I'm just posing this finished photo of those two black men in uniform. Um, like there's this real love between people, and you have these other competing narratives around the greater social um, narrative around that. And I don't know, you're seeing it's getting really like textured. It's more interrupted. I'm as a young academic now, I guess I should say. I don't know. I'm learning a lot about Black American history, Black Canadian history. I'm learning a lot about myself, and I am like all of you, a little bogged down of the world right now with just in the face of so much that it's feeling like interruptions. And I feel this inclination to engage portraiture with that same form of interruption. Like the world's kind of clunky right now. It feels like this to me. Like there's so many images that are happening, and it's so hard to focus on one thing at a time. And we're all kind of, I don't know, the faces here don't even become so important. It just becomes this blob of information. And at the same time, there's still intimacy in this painting, I would argue. There's still something here. There's a, yes, there's all this interruption happening, but your eyes are trying to make a face from it. Like your eyes want to see something. Like we want to see each other. We love portraiture in that way where we want to recognize that face. We want to understand it. We want to reach out. There's a lot of yearning. Mm, so this is another painting I've done. Sorry, I should probably said I should probably say the title for this one was uh, "Kiss Your Homies," and there's another painting I've done. It's called Three Layers of Intimacy. I recently sold. It's going to Bermuda. I'm really excited. But again, it has a lot of this textured element to it. But from afar, like you can't really see all the plaster imprints I have. It's very much subtle in this one. This is my first time using the plaster. Here we have similar narratives. Like we have all these people who are bunched together. You see these two figures in a brace. You see another figure over here, two others behind. All these people are just sort of vibing with each other, hanging out with each other. um, and invoking this sense of, mm, I'd say, I think they're inviting because these paintings, these people are staring at us, and they aren't afraid of us. They aren't fearful. Perhaps they're wanting, perhaps they're yearning for something, but you can see me as a painter that I've moved more into this element of like, hey, I'm in the room now. I want people to come closer and I want to be seen and witnessed. Um, and yes, I do deal with a bit of meme culture in this particular painting as well. There's a, well, if you ever Blackgate Twitter, then you might be able to find this meme. I won't, expose the secret now, but yeah, I'm always in conversation with things like that, little moments. Um, yeah, we are coming. I think I'm going through this a little quicker than I imagined. Um, oh, yes, yes. Okay, so far we've discussed art making as a form of escapism, as a form of bearing witness, an invitation, and now, just now, we talked about art as research. My studies have, like, my studies in studio arts at Concordia has really pushed me to invite my whole self into my practice. What I mean by that, like, I was way too afraid before to talk about very particular sensual moments. I had this fear that, okay, the minute I make a painting that is sensual or sexual in nature, I would be typecast or like, oh, he's just another gay painter making work like that. But there's something so interesting about this process. Like there's this, I've done this drawing of this person experiencing an orgasm like in three different moments, and there's so much to say here. One, I'm an individual who really, you know, I had all that trauma to contend with. I had a fear of men, and I'm a queer man interested in men, so you can imagine that there is some challenges when it comes to my intimate relationships and dating people. What is so awesome about an art practice is that I've been able to somewhat work through some of this. Like this guy is literally like, yeah, he's in a moment of ejaculation where I'm capturing his faces, his reactions. Um, I was trying to do things that made me uncomfortable and then learn from it. Like, what kind of colors would I use to achieve this particular drawing? Why those colors? What does it say about me? What does it say about um, the vibe I want to cast on the viewer? And again, all this is happening in such an abstract sense. Like I never come at a painting thinking, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen. It's like a way of thinking. Uh, you just gotta do it to understand it, to be honest. But best way I can explain it is that in real time, while my hand's moving, I'm like, okay, I've done that. Now, why did I do that? It's like therapy. Like, okay, why'd you do that? Why are you repeating this particular thing here? So yeah, I don't know. I love that I am on this journey of self-discovery through painting and drawing, and I'm only getting started right now. Like it's expanding and growing so much. Um, yeah. Well, this is where to find me. I think we do have some time, so I don't know if I should do like questions. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Jega's Deli. I have a website that I do need to update JegaDelisca.com. Um, and I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. And yeah. Um, I'm wondering, should I wait? There's a lot of time, so let's.
Can I ask you some questions?
Yes, let's do that. Let's.
Yay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. I really feel honored that you showed your journey and all of your vulnerability throughout it. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm wondering if you've noticed a change in your overall state of mind, your overall mental health at the beginning of this journey compared to where you are now.
That is a great question. Yes, I've learned so much about myself. Like it's really quite insane. Um, what's so amazing about shame is that it has this ability to disguise itself. So you think like, okay, if I just work out more and I look good now, then the shame's gone. Then the shame just changes into something else. Like it's so good at doing that. When I was drawing things or painting things, I'm like, whoa, if it actually puts shame in a bit of a corner where it's like, okay, I know what feels a little weird there, that's like I don't want to go there, but it reveals itself. And throughout this process, in the last 5 years, is where most of those paintings I've had. Yeah, like I've moved out on my own. I've been able to ask more questions of myself, and I've been able to entertain relationships and try and like just yeah, it's like a diary for me. I've can definitely see now. You will see a lot of the paintings I have now where the figures are looking at you. And they want to be looked at. The I did a little series on erotica, and it was really more about like, hey, I want to be desired. Come closer. I think there's something cool about that. I think that's so fascinating. So yes, to answer your question, for sure. Mm.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad to know that you really feel an evolution and a growth in this process. And I'm curious to know as well, when you're just like walking down the street and there's people around you, which eye do you see people through? Is it the eye of just, oh, I see, Mr. something here and Mrs. something there, mix someone over there? Or is it your artist's eye and you're like, oh, wow, this person has this type of feature, this person has that type of feature?
Wow, that is a great question. I will say, and I'm still working through it. I do experience a lot of interruption where I'm like, okay, let me make sure I don't look at these people in the eye. And I think about myself. I'm like, whoa, I'm in a big body. I'm a tall person. I'm like 6 feet. I don't know. But I'm like, oh, I could be intimidating. Like, I don't know. There's things where I'm like, just make sure you don't come across scary. And it's so ingrained that I forget to challenge it at times. So I'd say a lot of that is just like, okay, let me make sure I'm not looking directly in their eye and I don't do anything that's too freaky. Um, but when I allow myself to linger on this gaze, whatever, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I get so excited, which probably freaks people out. But I'm like, oh, when it's my friends and I get to paint them, I'm like, I'm just looking everywhere. I'm like, oh, I want to know things, this information. I don't want to know ratios, and it's never about like I don't have this idea of perfection or whatever. It's just really fun to look at faces. It's like flowers. You're like, whoa. Oh, yeah. So I definitely I want to do that more. I'm trying to. Um, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Mm.
That's very interesting. You mentioned earlier about the potential internalized racism that you might be experiencing. Do you think that also relates to how you feel that you're presenting yourself to people?
Yes, yes. Well, yes. Ascaris, where there's this great I'm forgetting his name, but he has an incredible organization down in Atlanta, and he talks about how we kind of have to move the conversation away from um, like when it comes to like isms, that it's more like if we live in a system that perpetrates perpetrates uses all these isms to subjugate people, that w- it's it's not whether we are, racist or not, whatever. It's literally there, and it's our job to find it. So yes, in a sense where definitely earlier, I was like, okay, it's complicated because it's also part of our social cues. There's things that when I grew up in Florida, and it was a little bit more, for lack of a better word, like segregated. You had your, let's say, your rituals like daps or whatever. They were supposed to signify something. You're like, hey, if you know this, our updated dap, that means you're constantly engaging with the culture, and that's both a good and bad thing. Like it's like, okay, that means, hey, you're still in conversation with us, or in the same way before, the internet virality craze, when dance moves would become popular. It's like, okay, you're part of the dance culture. It's an indicator. So, shame, however, the internalized shame that I carry can distort those relatively neutral moments to be things like, okay, maybe they're checking if I'm straight or gay, or maybe they're checking if I'm like terrifying enough. Like it's so yeah, there's the internalized isms that I'm dealing with that I can't cast on the other person because it's really like, hey, I'm just having this shame-induced feeling that is distorting my sense of reality here, because this person could just be like, hey, what a pretty handsome guy. Who knows? um, I wouldn't know because I'm perpetrating these ideas. And I also thought that was very unfair. And I've learned that through painting, where I'm like, oh, I would hate if someone thought I was judging them when I was just like doing my groceries. So, so yeah, that's a good question.
That's very interesting. I like that you bring up shame a lot because it takes a lot of humility to talk about it because I do believe that more people than what we think actually do experience shame on a day-to-day basis. And you
Mm.
were talking also about how at some point in your life you had difficulty looking at yourself in the mirror. Is that still the case? Like what happens, especially when you're doing a self-portrait, what happens there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is that still the case? I wouldn't say to the same extent. I'm getting more and more comfortable with my masculinity, my presentation, and also just give a moment to clarify. Like I'm reclaiming my sense of maleness out of an act of like, hey, I don't want to be bullied out of my expression here, and I also believe maleness can be super expansive. So I feel comfortable calling myself a man, even if I might have more gender fluid tendencies. Because I just like, why not? Why can't it be as expansive as anything else? Um, oh my God, I forgot the question. Wait, sorry.
No problem. That was a really cool tension that you went on there. So no problem. It's it was when you look at yourself in the mirror, do you still like how has that shame evolved and how does it feel when you're doing a self-portrait compared to looking at yourself in the mirror?
Oh, good question. That Phil. Hmm. I felt like, uh, as of late, I've gotten to a place of neutrality of like, hey, you're not the worst person in the world. You're not this ogre or whatever. And now let's just be like, I look at that person and I'm just like, okay, we're on good terms, y'all. We don't need to fight today. It's just after that. I'm getting slowly closer to giving myself a compliment once. So we're getting there, and it's oh my God, yes, the tendency though it does show up, and I'll be a little bit more like it does show up, particularly in dating, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is gorgeous, and then they say similar things about me, and I'm like, okay, well, if you say so. I don't know. I have such a hard time letting myself believe stuff. Um, I mean, it has gotten a lot better. I will say, Like I'm thinking about my PhD, it's gotten a lot better. Um, but yeah, there's work to be done, and I'm on that journey. So mm.
It is a journey, and like you said, one shouldn't strive for perfection, but instead just being in the moment and appreciating what's there.
Oh, that's a good, yeah, yeah. In the moment is really an awesome way to put that. Because when I am actually painting and I'm in the flow state, I am 100% present. So those thoughts don't get to me. I don't have time to think about that. I'm just there. And I will say, there's moments where I am so generously loved on that I'm like, oh, I'm just laughing, I'm giggling, and I'm with that, and I'm not thinking about some of those more aesthetic um, considerations. Mm.
It's good to focus on those moments where you're really in your element and your zone and you're channeling what you have inside on your canvas.
Mm.
Those, I feel like that's where you probably shine the most because that's where you're truly connected to who you are, and that is an artist.
Mm. Yeah, I know for sure. There's a lot to be appreciated about that part of the journey. Oh, I think I should consider. I should also share. Hmm. I came to this understanding just earlier today about like why I have this fear of men, and I'm changing the narrative. I want to change the wording just a bit because before, and maybe even throughout this presentation, I might have conveyed it in a sense of like this is something individually I'm carrying, as opposed to no, this was a proper expected outcome. Like in the environment that I grew up in, it was just we were supposed to be fearful for each other. It was a approach neighborhood that our inner world, our emotional world were so small. You're expected to just carry so much that it made sense. And I really want to also put out there that like my siblings, for their part, young people navigating a world, learning how to survive, that's what they're doing. Building this exterior of hypermasculinity was an act of love, like from their vantage point. These are young people, right? And that particular environment require required that state of being. I've now learned to why it's so important to make that distinction because like we should criticize our governments, the structures around it, what scarcity does to the brain, what fear and survival does to the brain. Like these are real phenomena that we're existing in, and they should be challenged. They should not be considered the norm. So yes, my fear of men was the expected outcome. It was if I can dehumanize myself, it would be so easy to demonize these other human beings. Like it's so, and then the world becomes somewhat easier in the sense of like, oh, I can just not challenge my government, my world, anything because I don't deserve anything, so you don't deserve anything. That was the mentality that was brought about. The more every year I've been away from the States, I just realized just how deeply imperialism is tied up into conversations around mental health and what we do. Well, that's a really good conversation, but and I'm sure it's here as well. But it's worth mentioning because it isn't just on me alone. I'm not that powerful, but yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, especially now, right now, it's December 3rd, 2025. It's not going well in the States, so I can't even imagine what's going on in terms of mental health for men, let alone men who are experiencing various layers of oppression. So, and I'm wondering also, do you feel like intergenerational trauma has a part in this all?
Yes. Well, I will say that hmm, I don't know. I probably don't wouldn't say as much. Because if honestly, when I'm thinking about it again, people come with the systems that they have, and when we think about it, this is a love is such an incredible thing, but it's a deeply taught thing. We've built on thousands and thousands and thousands of history of love from our cultures on how to be like, a loving person. And when things like colonization happens or things like massive interruptions, we forget how to love. And it sounds a little like, cheesy, but it's deeply like this is actual research. This is actual things that we give to our young people that cultivates the way that we experience the world. And so that is to say that for my parents' part, I think their systems were great. Like they would have worked great if they were still in Haiti. And it worked somewhat okay in the States as well. For a place that did not provide a lot of resources, I think they did pretty well for themselves. And I can just look at that now from my parents. So I wouldn't say it was intergenerational trauma. I literally think we're set up to fail. And I'm contrasting that between when I first moved to Canada and the amount of integration services that was being dealt. Like West Palm Beach, half of it looks bombed. It actually looks that bad. So, and again, I right now, at least in Quebec, we're losing a lot of supports for everything, for my doctors, my medical stuff like that. Like all this is happening everywhere. Um, and again, it deserves to be challenged. Um, so yeah, I think people are doing the best with what they've got. Yeah, credit to my parents. They actually did pretty good. Like, I think about it, I'm like, yeah, you all did fine. Um, Now as a young person or as someone who's inheriting the world, you know, I'm doing what I can for my political sense and the way that I create stuff and the way I support my community. But yeah, that's the answer to that question.
Thank you for sharing that. All right. If you have some more energy, I have two more questions that I would love to throw at you.
Mm.
Okay. Question number one. What is your ambition, your goal with your art? Where do you see yourself going with it?
Hmm. Where do I see myself going? Okay, sorry, I'm gonna do one thing. Okay, perfect. You still see me, right? Okay, great. Oh, not bad. Um, what's my ambition? Oops, sorry. I gotta get comfortable in the chair. I gotta do my weird set. Um, where do I see myself as? Hmm, okay, this is like like the rubber question of it. I have been trying to rid myself of my ambitions recently, and here, stick with me. Again, I'm someone who lives with a lot of shame. Queer people, we a lot of us have that. And I'm really fearful that my ambitions previously were used as a mean to overcompensate for my queerness. And now I'm trying to be like, hey, what does it look like if we, of course, do our best, but also if I didn't become the biggest artist in the world, like what would I be okay with that? And yes, I would. I'm okay with that. I'm trying to make more space for that. So my greatest ambitions is just, oh, that quote's perfectly like the love of my life is the love of my life. I'm really trying to live my life. I'm really trying to love the people around me. Those are my greatest ambitions. It's already a lot. I won't think larger than that because it's taking a lot of energy just to manage my role to circle. So yes, it's a relatively big ambition, but that's it.
So in that sense, your ambition is more so about balance than it is about pursuing fame or anything of that sort.
Yes, for sure. Because when I think about it, my my brothers, I didn't mention this, they were pretty like they really pushed the boundaries to the point where I felt like I couldn't do anything. I lived a very cautious life because I wanted to be the perfect little gay child or not gay child at the time. Um, and it's like in one way that belief of being a perfect little child has pushed me away from, let's say, quote unquote, more negative coping mechanisms. I was like, no, I'm gonna be perfect. I can't drink anything. I can't do anything. I'm gonna be perfect. That was a crazy amount of pressure I was applying to myself. It's everything in moderation, and also there's the eternal dialogue of like, why are you doing this? So much of me was, oh, I'm gonna be brilliant, so I can be seen, I can be witnessed, I can be loved. Now I'm arguing that this is a healthier element of like, hey, I'm worthy of love and all that stuff before any of this stuff, you know. I love painting, it's gonna just keep on happening. Um, yeah, like I'm loving my present moment right now.
That's a good philosophy to have. It's like you were saying earlier, to be present in the moment and to appreciate what's there.
Mm.
Oh, nice. All right. Now, for my last question, you, I assume you started painting as more of a hobby, but now you're getting paid for it. So how has your relationship with painting changed once it became a source of revenue for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Well, I will say painting, my art practice has many different pillars. I'll say that. Because one, even outside of a hobby, well, I wonder how much of it was up. 'Cause I got praised for it pretty early on. Like, I failed a grade, I did all the stuff, but they're like, you can draw. So I did get praised for it. Like, that was a reinforcing belief that I'm like, oh, you're being witnessed and you should do this more because that means your parents would like you more, your brothers would like, and you get to be more unique. I think that was a bigger part is that I have a really big family unit. It matters how you're able to garner attention, especially for my brothers who were they were like troublemakers. Um, hmm. So I'd say a lot of that was part of the practice. I can't separate that. Another part of it was was using my art practice as mental wellness. Um, Before I really went into my full artist career identity, I was more of an arts and culture worker, whereas providing spaces for other people and using art as a means to start a conversation or to deal with things as a group and collective. So it didn't really matter the byproduct, so to speak. It was more by painting together, and that being the reason why we're together, it's successful. Like you're just doing it with someone else. In the same way that like I have an issue with men and inviting them into my spaces for painting. It's not really about the painting. The painting is just like a receipt of our conversation. It's a means to an end. In fact, I don't know if I really care about painting that much. Like I nerd out about it. I love it. I always fall in love with art nerds, so obviously I love it, but I don't really. I don't know. Anyway, that's something. And lastly, art as a career. I'm in love with you. It is a little annoying, because it's weird. It's weird. It's let me say that. Or yeah, let's say it's weird. I'm going to learn to love it, but the challenges I have in it, and just speaking frankly, this sorry, the same challenges I might have in some of my intimate relationships, where I am so good at getting things started. Amazing at getting things started and connecting there. But something happens where the engine or the fuel I've used for so long was this emotional discovery or this healing process. And now I'm being expected to paint on a timeline for a painting that will be, well, I won't live with. Um, Something along the way gets lost. It gets confused. I am learning how to handle this. This is part of growing up into this practice. And I'm sure I will. But I would be remiss to say that it is deeply challenging. Like it's a challenging aspect of my career right now where I'm like, oh, how do I keep the fuel? Because I need to, I'm telling myself I just need to live life more so I have more life fuel. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to make something so I can pay this. And then I can't get a job because then uh, I won't be in the proper frame of mind. Like it's so fragile, this little system I have for myself. It's like a little, it's like my practice is a very complex computer and the emotions is the inner working system. And if I can't flick something right, the perfect amount, the whole system crashes. So the ultimate solution to this is that I learn how to live and manage with my emotions. It's a really long thing to do. I'm working on it, the whole meditation, everything, but it comes with its challenges. And in the same way, I'm learning in my relationships. You learn by doing. Like you don't really learn in complete solitude as I used to doing. So yeah, that's a really long-winded answer of saying, yeah, it's challenging, but I'm up for it. I am up for the challenge.
I'm glad to know that you're still up for the challenge, even though sometimes what I think what I'm hearing from you and what I do hear from other people as well is that putting money in the game kind of cheapens the process because, like you said, it's like if you're painting just because you want to, that emotional source is there and it's coming out so naturally. But if you're on a deadline, you have a tight schedule, and you might even have some specifics that you have to follow in order to create art, it's just not the same.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And then, oh, I will say, what gives me so much inspiration is like older artists, like Nan Golden, incredible artist. She's incredible. She's a photographer. If you're not familiar with her work, she got her start in the late 70s, 80s. She documented all her friends throughout the epidemic, and her photos. She started taking photos of intimate life before it was cool to do so. Um, and she just says like, "Hey, I take photos as a way to remember my life. It's not the biggest thing, but when you see her whole or all of her work, everything makes sense after a moment. And I'm hoping I'm doing the same thing with painting, where it's like, oh, this was just as natural as breathing. Um, but yeah, we can also let's get universal basic income for artists. I don't know who I'm advocating to, but let's do that. Um, but yeah, anyway, I do get a lot of inspiration from our elders who've been doing this stuff for a long time. And I'm so grateful for all the stories and narratives I've learned about myself, for all the people who's done so much work before I got here. Um, yeah, so I am lifted by the dead in all the greatest sense of the words, and yeah, we'll do this.
Wow, I love that. Following in the footsteps of your elders.
Mm,
Mm. Well,
yeah,
on this very peaceful and wholesome feeling, if you have anything to add, please go ahead before we close this presentation.
anything else to add? What's a good way to wrap up? Paint pictures of the people you love, ask them questions, let them witness you, and love being witnessed. Yeah.
Very inspiring words. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your work, sharing your process, sharing your person, because you're an amazing artist and an amazing person. So it was really great to have you on.
I appreciate it. Oui. Ciao.
It's true. And if people want to give Yega some love as well, please go follow his Instagram, visit his website. You do have to update your website, don't forget.
No, I do. I'll update that.
And if people want to learn more about the Expand project or want some support in cessation or just some general idea of what's going on with smoking and vaping in queer and trans communities, feel free to look us up on social media. Our website will put all of the information down below. And with that, thank you very much, Jega, for this amazing presentation.
Thank
Yay!
you. Woo.
All right, everyone, may you have a blessed day.
Ciao.